This story, Jesus' passion, Jesus' deep suffering, Jesus' extraordinary love is not an easy one to listen to. I want to affirm each person for sitting here, listening attentively to this deeply sad, deeply disturbing, deeply moving story and staying present to it. We are able to look forward, but not yet, to resurrection because we are able to be here at the cross during the most difficult time. Crucifixions, suffering, bedside vigils, places where we hold the hands of those who are dying. These are not easy to witness or even to acknowledge or to be present for. And resurrection can only happen for us when we allow ourselves to be present to the reality of suffering. It's real, it happens, and we don't just gather here to remember the sufferings of the past, but also so that we can be present to suffering here and now. I acknowledge with gratitude every person's ability to be here tonight and to be present to the suffering of Jesus at the cross. This morning, a group of us gathered in downtown Dallas and walked around further than I had planned or prepared for, and at various points acknowledged crucifixions that are taking place even still. It was a very different kind of mood than this. We were at that point the people who can't be bystanders to suffering, but who are called to protest it when we see it. We can't always do that. We take turns doing it. It was very moving to be in downtown Dallas and to recount stories of crucifixions that have been protested vocally, where people have taken their bodies and used, as Jesus used his body, their own bodies as a symbol of protest. Act up, fight back, speak out, we chanted this morning in downtown Dallas. And it stirred me and I think others from a kind of passivity, a kind of resignation that says we don't just have to watch suffering. Sometimes we can intervene, interrupt, protest, and say, no more crucifixions, no more executions, no more deaths. This morning I talked about how right now in the state of Texas and several other southern states, state legislators are refusing to raise the Medicaid threshold to the level it is in other states, which means that many, many people who are living at or near poverty, who would qualify for Medicaid in other states, are not qualifying for it in Texas. This includes large numbers of people with HIV here in Texas. It's a kind of crucifixion. It's happening here and now, and it's preventable. Once you see a crucifixion that you can intervene in, it's incumbent to exercise your voice. Not every crucifixion is preventable. not all suffering is preventable. Most of it is not. Death is inevitable. That's part of the tragedy of this observance. It's what gives credibility to our Easter celebration. We're not pretending death isn't real. We're not pretending it doesn't happen. So when we sing about new life and resurrection, it means something. The women at the cross understood the importance of being present to suffering even when you can't prevent it. They did not flee. They were those who were there, the various Marys, present, staying there in silent witness. Jesus, comforted by the presence of his mother and his dearest friend, and saying to them, even with his parting breath, "Woman, behold your son. Son, behold your mother." Love redefines family and gives us strength to endure, because love is stronger than death, and love never ends. I've seen mothers who, unable to prevent suffering, stay present during the deaths of their sons. Mrs. Campbell, who I prayed with early on in the AIDS years, who said to me, "Is it wrong for me to pray for my son to die? I can't stand to see him in such pain." But she never left his bedside. Mrs. Alans belonged to the Reformed Church in America, a Calvinist church that teaches that illness is a consequence of someone's bad behavior. Her preacher had told her she shouldn't be there, and that her son had AIDS because of some failure of faith or testimony in her life. Still, she held his hand in the midst of terrible dementia. As Jeff, her son, was dying, we prayed the Lord's Prayer. And though you would not imagine where this could come from in him, he was so racked with pain and disorientation. When we prayed the Lord's Prayer, he prayed, "Our Mother and Father in heaven, hallowed be thy names." This was the manner that we prayed that prayer at the MCC Church in San Francisco. And somehow, in the midst of disorientation and pain, that's the prayer version he remembered. And she prayed with him that prayer, which was so alien to her faith, and said later how much she was comforted and how angry she would have been had she missed that opportunity because the preacher had told her to stay away. Mrs. Nelson, her son, and her son-in-law, though we didn't have that language then, we said her son and her son's lover, because there was no notion of marriage being legal. She was present to them, both of them during their illnesses, gave them the best wedding ever, and present first to her son's death, and then to her son's lover's death. And when the opportunity came to give out marijuana to people who had HIV, this is pre-protease, remember? There were no treatments, really. Said to me, "We've got to do this." She was the president of the church board. And she said, "How could we not do this, even though it's breaking the law?" Well, by "we've got to do this," she meant I had to do this. I said, but I'm the one that's going to go to jail. She said, I'll go with you. Anyone who's ever spent a half a day trying to get her son to eat a few spoonfuls of cereal because he didn't have an appetite, anyone who's ever done that would be willing to go to jail so that others wouldn't suffer. Mrs. Galataria, her son Scott was from Hawaii, very proud of his Hawaiian heritage, danced in a hula troupe, but was reluctant to tell her, an evangelical Christian, about his homosexuality, even though she always came to San Francisco and loved to spend time with his friends. Her nickname, by the way, by which all of her friends called her, was Butch. So, finally, as his illness became difficult to conceal, he decided he had to tell her. And on her next visit, he didn't clean his apartment the way he normally did. Clean his apartment means hide anything gay. And there was a big, beautiful photograph of him in drag, which he did with remarkable poise and beauty. She came into the apartment, saw this photograph, and said, "This girl must have a beautiful mother." And she was present, even when he couldn't ask for it. She was present. At his funeral, featured the gay men's chorus, hula troops. It was on national television. She sang "In the Garden." And I'll never forget, this is what it means to be like a woman at the cross, faithful to the end, even when others have fled. Tonight, I want to invite you to come and spend time at the cross. The cross is the symbol of love that is stronger than death and of love that never ends. The cross is the symbol of love, wordless at times, that speaks to us even still all these years later. We wear it as a symbol not of judgment, but of love. I want to invite you to come, and we'll be having candles here, so you'll come up this way, down the center aisle, up this way, as we sing music together to venerate, to appreciate the cross. You can come and stand here and leave your candle here if you like, or occupy the altar. It's only sacred because we're here. Come and stand here or here. Stand if you like. Kneel if you like. Prostrate yourself if you like. It's the one place not to be embarrassed or ashamed. I invite you to come and spend a minute in appreciation of love that doesn't leave when things get difficult. Or say a prayer out loud or silently. Who do you need to pray about tonight in order for you to experience resurrection on Sunday? What burden do you carry that you want to leave here at the cross? What sadness, what disappointment, what reliance or addiction, whatever it is that encumbers you or might prevent you from experiencing resurrection on Easter. Come and leave it at the cross. We'll sing. We'll be here together, grieving, mourning, private time with God. It's better in a group than alone. So this is no judgment. Come and use this space. Interact with Jesus or with the goddess or with God or with the person that you need to be in touch with. This is sacred space. This is the space where love overcomes and that love never ends. So I invite you to come now. And here, as you're moved, there can be as 20 or 30 people up here at once, or 10. You can also pray in your seat. Praying with people is a way of doing something for people also. So come experience love, the wondrous cross.